Welcome to the show, guys. We are talking about 5 quarterbacks I love for fantasy football 2022. Now, these are not your obvious names. Obviously, I love Justin Herbert. Obviously, I love Josh Allen for fantasy football. But I'm trying to dive a little bit deeper and pick out some names here that have massive upside going into the season. Some of them are ranked a little bit higher, some a little bit lower. But 5 quarterbacks I love going into fantasy football 2022 that could absolutely boom on your roster and that you could bring on your team and wow your league mates. Because last year we saw it. I mean, the value last year was Justin Herbert. I was getting him in and around the 4th round. He does well. He comes back up. Years ago, I remember everybody had Baker Mayfield. The mainstream consensus that Sheeps has had Baker Mayfield ahead of Josh Allen. I got Josh Allen round 5 and 6, and he boomed. There was actually a point in time, literally, where people actually thought Baker Mayfield was better than Josh Allen. That was the mainstream. I was telling you, Josh Allen was better. People thought I was crazy. So I'm going to dive into 5 quarterbacks I love in this episode. Excited to get into it with you guys right now. The show is brought to you by pristineauction.com. Go create an account. It's free to create an account, and you get $10 towards any auction you want. And there's giveaways, guys. You can win a signed, listen to this, a signed Travis Kelce framed jersey. I got a Stephon Diggs football. I got a lot of signed swag, okay? pristineauction.com. Code SWAGLINE. Create an account. It's free to create an account using code SWAGLINE. You're entered for the draws, and you get $10 off towards those auctions, all right? Let's dive into the show. 5 quarterbacks I love for fantasy football 2022. All right, guys, welcome to the show. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Click the subscribe button, thumbs up, and in the comments below, what quarterback do you love for the season? I want to make it interactive here if you are watching on YouTube. If you're in the car, you can think about it in your brain here. What quarterback do you really love going into 2022? And again, this is very early, guys. This is very, very early. We are in March at the time of this recording. But drop your comment below and also get the 16-round draft solution. Pull over, get the 16-round draft solution. Just Google 16-round draft solution or go to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com. Get the solution to crush your leagues, period. Draft kits are dead. Cheat sheets are dead. Consensus rankings are dead. This is it, guys. Everything is in the solution. Get 16 rounds. All right, first quarterback I love for fantasy football 2022. And let's go with Jalen Hurts here. I was going to start off with Jalen Hurts. Now, here's the deal. Jalen Hurts last year finished 9th amongst quarterbacks, currently sitting 10th on the consensus rankings. Now, I don't follow the consensus rankings at all. The only reason I follow the consensus rankings is because I use it as a guideline for where your league mates or where the sheep are drafting from. They are typically drafting from a consensus point of view, the sheep's point of view. So I see Jalen Hurts sitting at 10th, which tells me that he's going to be pretty good value in drafts going into the season. Again, it's very early. I haven't really dove into some hardcore mock drafting yet, but I can tell you that Jalen Hurts is going to be your value quarterback that could finish top 3. Okay, that's something you have to understand. My value quarterback for last year was Justin Herbert. I had him on all my rosters. Finished 2nd amongst quarterbacks. Now, because he finished 2nd, the mainstream are going to copy and paste that over and have him as a high draft capital kind of guy. So we saw this again with Lamar Jackson as well. Last year, even the year before, people drafted him in the 2nd round. I said, avoid Lamar Jackson. And he finished, 10th in last year. And this past year, he finished, where did Lamar Jackson finish? He finished below that, 16th. So Lamar Jackson, very high draft capital in him the past couple of years, and then he didn't finish where he was supposed to finish, right? He finished 10th or just below that, okay? Last year, finishing 16th particularly. So Jalen Hurts, again, finished 9th last year. Looking at his numbers, just to break it down for you, there's a ton of ceiling to be had here. Now, he only threw 16 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. That's really unacceptable. Where he got his numbers and what helped him finish 9th amongst quarterbacks is his rushing touchdowns. He had 10 rushing touchdowns, led the league of quarterbacks, right, with rushing touchdowns. So that's a pinnacle for him. That could happen again very well. But where he's lacking is he's not throwing the ball as much as he should. And when I look at a quarterback, I like them throwing the ball. He actually threw the ball 432 times. That is not enough. That put him at 21st amongst quarterbacks in passing attempts. When I look at a quarterback, I love passing attempts. Now, I always say, Joe, why do you love Jalen Hurts? You're saying, well, you like a quarterback that throws the ball. because Justin Herbert, I loved last year. I know he throws the ball out. He was second last year in passing attempts. He is now inflated. And I don't know if I want to pay a second-round pick in a one-quarterback league on a Justin Herbert when I got him last year in the 5th round. So I'm trying to find the value. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to be that value. Now, there is a rule with quarterbacks when I draft them. In a 2-quarterback league, I always roster 3 quarterbacks. In a 1-quarterback league, I always roster 2 quarterbacks. I always have a backup plan for a backup plan when it's quarterback to cover what? Cover injuries, cover lack of performance, cover bye weeks, okay? So there's reasons I always have 2 quarterbacks in a 1-quarterback league, okay? So Jalen Hurts, again, I still think there's a huge ceiling for him. His passing yards were 3,144, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's going to go up. He's got Devontae Smith. Smith has a ton of upside. Young, dynamic player, one of the best wide receivers out of the class of 2021. We saw the amazing emergence of Jamar Chase. Is Devontae Smith as good? He is really good. Could be better. We don't know. I mean, Jamar Chase, I think, is absolutely special. Absolutely love him this year. But when you look at Devontae Smith, I think there's a ton of upside, and that connection is going to build with him and Jalen Hurts. We're going to have to see what the Eagles do in the offseason to help improve either the O-line. I don't know what they're going to improve here, but Jalen Hurts needs more time to throw. But I definitely think that he gets more comfortable this year, gets in the zone, builds that connection and that rapport a little bit better with, obviously, Devontae Smith. And I am excited here about Jalen Hurts going into the season. So that's my reasoning. I think there's a ton more ceiling for him. Love him, okay? And I think he's going to be good value. Number 2 here, I think the mainstream are going to be sleeping on him, and I'm going to include him in a lot of my sleeper quarterback videos. The guy I'm talking about is Mac Jones. Finished 18th amongst quarterbacks last year. Now, this year is currently sitting 17th. Typical copy and paste. But I still think, similarly to Jalen Hurts, there is a huge ceiling with Mac Jones. Now, Mac Jones likes to throw the ball a little bit more, but you're not going to get the rushing touchdowns. He finished, again, 18th amongst quarterbacks. Where he's going to make his improvements is the touchdowns. He had 22 touchdowns to 13 interceptions, 38.01 when you're looking at the yardage in regards to Mac Jones. Now, he is on a good offense there with the Patriots. They did relatively well this past season, but what I'd like to see is him actually start throwing it even more, and I think that's very possible with Mac Jones and that offense. We saw Brady thrive as a quarterback in fantasy football throughout the years. Mac Jones, that was his first year, so you got to give him some time. Now, his top receiver last year was Jacoby Myers, followed by Kendrick Bourne, and then there's Nelson Aguilar, and then N'Keal Harry's in the mix as well, who only played 12 games. But if you look at the young talent of Kendrick Bourne and Jacoby Myers, you can see that there's a ton of upside with these guys. Now, Kendrick Bourne is no rookie. He's been in the league since 2017, 6'1", 203, just finished going into his 6th season. But you want them to get, I don't think these guys are ace receivers, right? You want them to get more volume, obviously, but I don't know if they're the solution. So when I look at Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne, I'm thinking, if they get him a good receiver, if they get him some more weapons, if they get him a better opportunity, Mac Jones could absolutely thrive this season. And I'm really excited about him. Hunter Henry had 75 targets for 9 touchdowns. So I'm looking at this offense. I just need Mac Jones to get a few more weapons, and then I think genuinely we have something special here with Mac Jones, a guy that could literally finish top 10 amongst quarterbacks. We just need to get him some better weapons and have him throwing a little bit more, maybe even rushing a few touchdowns. You never know for Mac Jones, who last year, again, didn't get anything in the rushing touchdown category. Although he did have 44 rushing attempts for 129 yards, just 0 touchdowns. And again, that shows the ceiling that it's possible that he gets a few rushing touchdowns, gets some better weapons, and could really thrive. So Mac Jones has a bit of a ceiling. I love him. I might get him as a backup quarterback with upside, a guy that's consistent week in and week out that could perform, okay? Come at number 3. Now, I think there's a huge ceiling for him this year for a huge bounce back, but injury is always a concern, and I've always said that here about number 3 here, Lamar Jackson. Currently sitting 6th on the consensus rankings, but I think this is the guy that could be that value quarterback in a 1-quarterback league that you can have slip to the 4th round, maybe the 5th, I don't know. Now, because he's sitting 6th, I think people will be tempted to grab him, but I think there's a lot of distractions at quarterback this year that will be drafted ahead of him. Maybe Matt Stafford, who finished 6th last year, Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen. I see all of these guys going ahead of Lamar Jackson this season in the draft. Maybe, I don't know about Matt Stafford, but the other guys I mentioned, Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen. So I look at Lamar Jackson, and I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, if I can get him after I've secured my running backs, 2 running backs, maybe an ace wide receiver, I may look at him if, I mean, that's a big if, he falls to the 4th round. I don't think he will. I know you're saying, well, Joey's 6th on the rankings on the Conchiefs. He's probably not going to fall. But again, I just think there's so many distractions. I'm going to be pushing the robust RB strategy, so a lot of people will be loading up on running backs. So I think quarterbacks are going to start falling after Herbert and Allen are gone. So again, if Lamar Jackson falls and he's good value, I may consider him. Now, again, last year finishing 6th amongst quarterbacks. What I don't like about Lamar Jackson is the fact that he just doesn't throw as much as I want. Last year, 16 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Again, he only played, 12 games and just under 3,000 yards, 2,882 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. So he just didn't get it done last year, which tells me if he can finish 16th, only playing 12 games, having a mediocre type season, I can see a huge ceiling for him to bounce back. And we've seen it before years ago with Lamar Jackson. So if I can get him, that's the key here with Lamar Jackson. I'm not, I put him here as a guy I love. That's predicated on the value that I can get for him. Okay, so Lamar Jackson. Coming at number here at 4. Now I understand this guy's ranked high. He is ranked, I should have mentioned him here in the earlier part because I think he's going to go ahead of Lamar Jackson, is Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow finished 8th amongst quarterbacks last year in fantasy numbers, 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Love it. I love the way that that's shaping out. If he just improves that touchdown interception ratio a little bit more, dropping down those interceptions. We know he's got the stud in Jamar Chase. He's got some weapons. He's got, so much upside in youth that I absolutely love Joe Burrow this year. T. Higgins is there. Again, we're going to see what happens in the offseason, what other weapons happen, what other weapons are added. But Joe Burrow looks absolutely amazing. 4,611 yards, 4,611 yards passing. That's something that I look at as well. Did he throw the ball a lot? Yes, 520 passing attempts. Again, very nice, putting him 15th in attempts. I would like that to go up. So I like the interceptions to go down. I'd like the attempts to go up. But I'm seeing a ton of upside with Joe Burrow, and I'm just so fascinated with that Jamar Chase-Joe Burrow connection. It's so appealing to me. It's been built up for years. It's going to continue to go. And again, Joe Burrow is going to be a little more expensive. I'm hoping that I get him for value because he's the guy that I would be definitely trying to target, 4th round if I can, but I don't think he's going to fall, okay? I'm hoping that these guys fall a little bit. I might be tempted to grab it for the right value. All right, let's move on here, and that's 1 quarterback league. The 5th guy is Russell Wilson. Now, here's the deal with Russell Wilson. I'm reading reports here, according to Pete Carroll, there is no intention of trading Russell Wilson at this time of recording. Russell Wilson has stated, quote, Seattle is the place. He loves it. That's good. He said he loves it. So that's a good thing. It looks like maybe this is going to be the home for Russell Wilson. There was rumors about him going to Washington, all that stuff. At the time of this recording, if he stays on Seattle, I still think it's a good thing. He had a bit of a down year last year. Played 14 games, finished 15th amongst quarterbacks. And this is the type of stuff I look for. I kind of look for those diamonds in the rough. And I hate to call, Russell Wilson in a rough situation. He's still that diamond. But this is a guy that, when he has a down year, he typically has a bounce back year the year after. So he's not a guy that's a slouch. He's not a guy that sucks. He's not a guy that hasn't performed and proven it in the past. But what tends to happen here with Russell Wilson is that as soon as he has a down year, the mainstream sheep sleep on him. He's currently sitting 12th amongst quarterbacks right now. In 2020, he finished 6th amongst quarterbacks. I know he had a down year last year. I get it. But this is not a guy that sucks. Russell Wilson, 2019, finished 3rd amongst quarterbacks. So he had a down year. As soon as he has a bit of a down year, he's always up. This is a guy who's always in the top 5, top 10 in regards to fantasy points. He's always producing. Like I said, 2019, his numbers were 328, finished 3rd amongst quarterbacks. So I'm not giving up on Russell Wilson. And I think he could be that steal in for the bounce back year. He could be that draft steal that I absolutely love. So if you want to anchor your team with an ace quarterback and you want to get that value play, and I think people will be sleeping on him, Russell Wilson's the guy. He will fall under the radar this year. But I'm seeing it year in, year out. He's always performing. So he finished 15th 1 year out of how many years, right? And this is what I love, when the mainstream consensus rankings come out, they're literally riding last year's top finishers, and then you could probably steal yourself a Russell Wilson. So I love him this season. Mind you, I will try to get a backup quarterback for him, maybe a young Mac Jones or someone like that to back him up, maybe a Tua, someone like that, maybe a Trevor Lawrence, someone like that that's going to be able to back him up in case he has a mediocre year. But, barring any type of injury, he may have a mediocre year at best, but there's a ton of upside to get him back into the top 5 this year. So there you have it, guys. 5 quarterbacks I love for fantasy football 2022. These are fantasy football quarterback rankings for you guys, but from a I love perspective. All right. Make sure you guys do get the 16-round draft solution. I've linked it here below. Subscribe, thumbs up, and which quarterback you love. If you're watching on YouTube, drop the name of the quarterback you love this year. Subscribe, guys. I appreciate you. Hope you guys enjoyed this list. I'm out.